Death arrives quietly at Black Dolphin. There are no sirens, no announcements over loudspeakers, no moment of reflection. One day, a cell door opens for inspection, and a man does not stand. Guards follow procedure. Medics confirm what everyone already knows. A body is removed, wrapped, documented, erased. By nightfall, another inmate occupies the space. This is how Black Dolphin maintains equilibrium. No emotion, no ceremony, no disruption. For men serving life sentences with no possibility of release, death is not a tragedy, it is the expected ending. Some inmates welcome it openly. Others fear it intensely, clinging to routine as if structure itself can delay the inevitable. But no one misunderstands it. Here, death is not punishment. It is closure. Burials are unmarked. Families are notified, if any remain. Many do not claim the bodies. Some cannot. Others refuse. The crimes committed by these men often make mourning socially impossible. Even in death, they remain isolated. Inside the prison, word spreads without words. Inmates notice a missing cough at night, an empty bed, a different breathing pattern beside them. That is all the acknowledgement there is. The prison does not slow down. Black Dolphin continues to operate because, in the eyes of the state, it works. There have been no escapes, no riots, no mass violence. The most dangerous criminals in the country are locked away, unable to influence the outside world. From a security standpoint, it is a success story. From a human standpoint, it is something else entirely. Critics argue that Black Dolphin crosses a line, that life without hope is a psychological execution stretched over decades. Supporters counter that the men inside forfeited any claim to compassion long before they arrived. The debate exists only outside the walls. Inside, ideology does not matter. What matters is control. Guards at Black Dolphin are trained to detach emotionally. Many of them stay only a few years. Others remain for decades, slowly absorbing the prison's rhythm. They learn not to ask about crimes, not to imagine faces behind files, not to wonder what might have been. Those who fail to detach leave. Some guards develop rituals to cope, counting steps, focusing on procedures, avoiding eye contact longer than necessary. A few admit the prison follows them home in dreams. Endless corridors, blindfolded figures, commands echoing in their heads. Black Dolphin imprisons more than inmates. It imprisons time itself. Years pass. Political systems change. Leaders rise and fall. Laws evolve. But Black Dolphin remains largely untouched, operating under the same core philosophy. Certain people must never return to society. Occasionally, rumors surface of reforms, of sentence reviews, of changing attitudes toward life imprisonment. Inside Black Dolphin, these rumors barely register. The inmates have learned better than to hope. Hope is the most dangerous thing here. One long-term prisoner, incarcerated for over 30 years, once said during evaluation, "If they told me tomorrow I was free, I wouldn't know where to go. My world ends at the door." That is Black Dolphin's final victory, not confinement, but transformation. The prison does not just remove freedom. It reshapes identity until the outside world becomes irrelevant, unreal, unreachable. For the newest arrivals, this realization is still distant. They arrive angry, defiant, terrified. They test rules. They search for weakness. They imagine escape routes they will never see. The older inmates watch silently. They know what comes next. First, the blindfold stops feeling temporary. Then, days lose their names. Then, memories stop hurting. And finally, the idea of elsewhere disappears. Black Dolphin does not need to kill to destroy. It only needs time. As long as men exist who commit crimes beyond forgiveness, places like this will exist to hold them. That is the logic behind its concrete walls and steel doors. Whether that logic is justice or vengeance depends on who is asked. The victims' families rarely question it. Society sleeps easier knowing these men will never walk free again. And the men inside Black Dolphin, serial killers, cannibals, terrorists, live out their days under constant watch, stripped of privacy, stripped of future, stripped of meaning. Not tortured. Not redeemed. Simply contained. When the last breath leaves a body in Black Dolphin Prison, there is no release announcement, no lesson learned, no moral conclusion, just another file closed, another life sentence completed. And the prison waits, silent and unmoving, for the next blindfolded figure to arrive at its gates. Because Black Dolphin is not a chapter in criminal justice history. It is an ending. Officially, Black Dolphin Prison does not tell stories. It keeps records. Folders stacked in locked cabinets. Case numbers instead of names. Psychological assessments reduced to charts and warnings. Inside those files are crimes so brutal that even seasoned investigators struggle to document them without flinching. But behind every file is a human being, someone who once walked freely, blended into crowds, and was invisible until the moment they were not. Some of the most dangerous men in Russian criminal history live, or have died, inside Black Dolphin. One of them was Vladimir Nikolaev, a former law enforcement officer turned serial killer. His crimes spanned years, hidden behind authority and routine. When he was finally arrested, the shock wasn't just in what he had done, but in how easily he had done it. The court sentenced him to life without parole. At Black Dolphin, his former badge meant nothing. Guards treated him like every other inmate. Blindfolded, bent forward, silent. Another inmate, known publicly only by initials, earned a reputation even among other prisoners. A cannibal who documented his crimes with chilling calm, he spoke openly during interrogations, explaining his actions without emotion. Psychologists flag him as exceptionally dangerous, not because of aggression, but because of complete emotional absence. Inside Black Dolphin, he was placed under constant observation. Even the guards avoided unnecessary proximity. There are terrorists here too, men responsible for mass casualties, bombings, and coordinated attacks. Some still believe in their cause. Others abandoned ideology long ago, replaced by bitterness and regret. Black Dolphin does not care which is which. Belief does not change outcome. When such inmates arrive, routines tighten. Cells are reassigned. Guards rotate more frequently. Medical checks become more frequent, not out of concern, but control. These men are not allowed to become symbols. Martyrdom is not permitted. The prison learned early that monsters can inspire others. So it silences them. Interviews are rare and heavily scripted. Cameras never capture faces fully. Names are censored. Voices distorted. What emerges is not confession, but emptiness. Long pauses. Flat responses. Men who once dominated rooms now struggle to form complete sentences. One inmate, imprisoned for multiple child murders, was asked during an evaluation if he regretted his crimes. He stared at the floor for a full minute before answering, "I regret being caught." That answer ended the interview. Black Dolphin does not aim to understand evil. It aims to contain it. Some inmates cling to their notoriety, whispering stories to cellmates, exaggerating details, trying to maintain relevance. Others deny everything, even in the face of overwhelming evidence. Denial becomes a survival mechanism, a way to avoid confronting permanence. There are also inmates who break completely. One former serial offender, once highly articulate, slowly lost language after years inside. Guards noticed his responses becoming shorter, then fragmented, then gone. By his 15th year, he no longer spoke at all. Medical evaluations showed no physical cause. His mind had simply shut doors one by one. Psychologists documented it as progressive withdrawal. Inmates call it disappearing while alive. What makes Black Dolphin uniquely terrifying is not the violence inside. There is very little of it, but the absolute absence of transformation. No redemption arcs. No sudden changes of heart that lead anywhere. Even remorse becomes meaningless when it cannot alter outcome. Some prisoners express guilt in later years. Others do not. The prison treats both the same. Because guilt does not unlock doors. Occasionally, rumors circulate of inmates requesting execution, begging for death instead of endless existence. Russia's moratorium on the death penalty makes this impossible. The prison denies such requests without discussion. Life must continue. For guards, the most disturbing inmates are not the loud or aggressive ones, but the calm ones. Men who follow every rule perfectly. Who never complain. Who never react. These inmates require closer monitoring, not less. They have nothing left to lose, and nothing is more unpredictable than a man who no longer fears consequence. Yet even these men rarely act out. Black Dolphin's greatest weapon is certainty. Certainty that tomorrow will be exactly like today. Certainty that obedience changes nothing. Certainty that the outside world is gone forever. Some inmates eventually forget why they are there. Not the crime itself, but the context. Faces fade. Names vanish. Motives blur. All that remains is the prison and the self that exists inside it. When psychologists ask about their past, answers are vague, detached, as if describing someone else's life. This is the final stage. Not madness. Not regret. But erasure. Black Dolphin does not seek revenge. It does not seek justice in the emotional sense. It is a mechanism, a place where society deposits what it cannot forgive and cannot destroy. And as long as those crimes exist, so will places like this. The men inside Black Dolphin will never walk free. Their stories will never fully be told. Their names will continue to fade, replaced by numbers, routines, and silence. But their existence serves a purpose, to remind the world that some lines, once crossed, lead to only one destination. A place where life continues, but the future does not. There are prisons meant to punish. There are prisons meant to rehabilitate. And then there is Black Dolphin Prison. Black Dolphin exists for a different reason entirely. It exists because some crimes rupture the social contract so completely that society no longer knows what to do with the people who commit them. Execution creates martyrs. Release creates risk. Rehabilitation, in these cases, feels like a lie. So the state chooses disappearance. Not public. Not dramatic. Just permanent removal. Black Dolphin does not announce its purpose, but it fulfills it with ruthless efficiency. The men inside are not waiting for hearings, appeals, or second chances. Their legal battles ended before they arrived. What remains is time, vast, silent, unbroken time. And time is the true sentence. From the outside, the prison looks ordinary: concrete walls, guard towers, steel gates. From the inside, it feels infinite. Corridors repeat. Days mirror each other. Even memory begins to loop, then fade. This is why Black Dolphin terrifies people far beyond Russia. Not because it is violent, but because it is final. There are no riots here, because rebellion requires belief in change. There are no escape attempts, because escape requires imagination. There are no legends of survival, because survival implies something waiting on the other side. Nothing is waiting. The blindfold is the prison's most powerful symbol. It does more than block vision. It erases orientation. It tells the inmate, over and over again, that knowledge itself is forbidden. You do not get to understand this place. You only exist inside it. And over time, many inmates stop wanting to understand anything at all. Critics call Black Dolphin a slow death sentence. Supporters call it necessary. Philosophers argue whether a life without hope is still a life. Lawmakers avoid the question entirely, because there is no clean answer. For the victims' families, Black Dolphin represents safety, the assurance that the person who destroyed their world can never touch another life again. For society, it represents control over chaos. For the men inside, it represents the end of narrative. There is no redemption arc here. No comeback. No dramatic confession that changes the outcome. Only routine. Only walls. Only waiting. And that may be the most unsettling truth of all. Evil is not defeated inside Black Dolphin. It is not cured. It is not understood. It is simply contained, sealed away from the rest of humanity like radioactive waste, too dangerous to destroy, too dangerous to release. When future generations study prisons like Black Dolphin, they will ask difficult questions. Was this justice? Was this cruelty? Was there another way? But those questions will be asked far from these walls. Inside, no one asks anything anymore. The guards follow orders. The prison follows protocol. The inmates follow routine. And the Black Dolphin statue remains at the gate, unmoving, watching men arrive who will never leave. Not screaming. Not fighting. Just blindfolded and gone. Because Black Dolphin Prison is not meant to scare criminals. It is meant to reassure the world that some doors, once closed, stay closed forever. This is where the worst stories end. And where silence takes over. End story. Kindly like, comments and subscribe.